Hi, I'm Rob McNeish, and welcome to our September farm tour. You can never stop thinking about the future in terms of your gardening or planning for your next season. So if you're not already thinking about what you're going to do next year in July, then you should start doing that when you're gardening. Always be taking notes. I do a lot of that here. I do seasonal notes. So making little notes in a notepad of what's not working, what did work, where things are, if you notice certain pests or bugs. So like this year, I've got the journal, and a lot of it's about the kale and the brassicas. So making a note for next year in February when I'm doing my plan to go, don't plant any kale next year because we want to eliminate a food source from a pest or something. So got some parsnip here I just pulled out. Looking good. We're gonna leave these in probably for a little while longer. Good size though on some of them. You can leave these in all winter, essentially. Some people do that, and then you can use your parsnip in the ground almost as storage. You can pull them out whenever it kind of thaws out a little bit and you can get them out of the ground. Interesting, you can do that with carrots and a number of other tubers and roots. These parsnip will actually get sweeter as it gets colder. So my understanding is that the plants, when it start getting colder, they actually produce more sugars, and that keeps them from freezing solid. These were thinned, but they could have been thinned a little more. We couldn't get some really long, big, thick ones. And these ones might get a little bigger between now and end of October and even into December, November. So from here, take a little trip to our compost pile. So we had some squash that were growing in our compost from last year that were really great. We've harvested some of those, but now is the kind of time of the season where I really like to kind of let and fill up this compost pile with all the bean plants we're pulling out, all the squash and cucumber plants that we've been pulling. We've got some chaff from the garlic we were cleaning up and harvesting and giving away this week. We basically do what's called a lasagna technique with our compost here. This is all just our weeds and stuff and from the farm over the year. Basically do a layer of these fresh greens. Oh, get these off. And I'll chop those up with a machete or a shovel. And then we do a layer of some of the older rotting stuff. So some of our grass clippings, our weeds that have been pulled, some of our older straw that we've cleaned up from previous years, and we'll mix this in together. We'll get this really nice and hot. I turned this 2 days ago, and it's rained a bunch, so that's really nice. It'll get nice and wet, and the decomposing will start. And this will actually get really hot. We had a compost thermometer here one year, and we were clocking 37, 40 degrees in the middle of the compost. So enough that you could heat up some water with it. This will be great. We'll do this we'll turn it a couple times. We'll keep on adding to it. And then eventually we'll put it into a big mound and we'll cover it with a tarp for the winter. And then we'll be able to sift it and then use it in the spring for some of our newer beds or to plant squash in again. Squash love kind of rotting stuff. So this is really great. We're gearing down a lot of stuff right now. Our greenhouse is still producing really well. Lots of tomatoes. We'll have tomatoes in here probably until the middle of October. Some really nice big juicy ones. Still getting some really nice eggplants. Still getting some peppers. But we've also got a number of our transplants in here. So we've got some spinach that's gonna go in the ground probably today. Nice spinach transplants. And then we'll probably also be doing some planting in here. We'll take these tomatoes out of the buckets. We'll fluff up the dirt in here, and then we'll actually plant right into these buckets that the tomatoes are in. We'll have some lettuce and chard all the way into kind of December probably. Keep the door closed and keep the sides rolled down on our greenhouse, and it'll stay nice and warm. I was in here and was chopping the tomatoes this week. They had gotten kind of out of hand. Took me a good 2 or 3 hours to get through all of the cutting to cut this tomato out and get some more air flowing through here because it was really stuffy. The tomatoes on either side of the greenhouse, they kind of blocked the wind from coming in, and we were starting to see some condensation and mold issues in here. So one of the ways you can deal with that, chop all the lower branches off and let some air flow in. So it's been really nice in here. But next I want to go up and show us what we're kind of our last big project for the season. We got some support through Tree Canada. So Telus supporting Tree Canada to support us. We were given some funding end of our season to plant a bunch of perennial edibles. Right here, we've got a bunch of plants. We've got lavender, a bunch of different cherry trees, a plum tree. We have one plum tree that's been grafted. It's got 4 or 5 different plums on it. So you can actually cut a type of tree from another tree and slice it onto another of the same variety. So you can wind up with a plum tree that actually produces 4 or 5 different types of plums. So we've got one here. This one's got a yellow egg plum, a Brooks plum, and an Italian prune, a Stanley plum, so a dwarf plum, a little one. Yeah, really nice. We've got some gooseberry right here. I like gooseberry, really nice little berries. You gotta be careful with the plant. They are very spiky. So we try to put those in a place where people aren't gonna run into them too much, kind of in the center of a bed. Perennial berry bushes, in these types of situations when you plant them, take about 2 to 3 years to really get settled into their homes and establish their roots. And then once they do that, they really start producing. So a lot of urban farmers and people who plant these stuff say there's a 3-year kind of gap, and then they really pop. You'll see this 1 year, you'll just have this kind of bumper crop of berries, and that's really when you know your plants are healthy and established. And we're all gonna be putting these in the next weeks so that they get a chance to establish and settle into their new homes so they can kind of go to bed for the winter and be able to survive the winter. This is one of our new beds that we put in the last couple of days. It's effectively almost doubled our perennial edibles. A little shady, but definitely gets a lot of good sun in the day. We're gonna have a really nice berry selection next year. It's gonna be incredible. Okay, so that's our September farm tour. We'll probably have another one, and hopefully we'll be able to introduce you to the new farmer that we've got coming onto the farm. I don't know who it is yet, so big surprise for me. But we'll be looking at that, and they'll be on our farm tour. So we'll see you again in a couple of weeks.